Flint, good to see you.
Hey, Luke, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking the time to be here.
My pleasure. Excited to be here.
For sure. So we're going to talk about the Scheduling Institute and HIP Creative today. And I'll just share my first story that is very memorable of the Scheduling Institute. I was at a meeting with a partner, and we went by your table, and I don't know who was there, but there was $100 bills on the table.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, this is interesting, right? And it's Dr. Carter Thomas out of Mobile. And he's like, I want $100. So the guy's like, hey, let me call and schedule an appointment at your office and you can keep the $100. That'll be easy. We're going to crush this. So you guys call and no appointment is scheduled. And his jaw just hit the floor. And from there it was like, man, what is the Scheduling Institute? And I don't know that there's anything out there like you guys. So super excited to talk to Dr. Rochford, who we have here today, and Dr. Goldberg as well, and just kind of hear more about Scheduling Institute and then how that also pairs with HIP Creative. So thanks for being here. Dr. Rochford, you want to give just a brief intro, your practice, where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm Brian Rochford. I am an orthodontist practicing in Indianapolis, Indiana. I graduated from residency in 2017. I was out in Denver, which was awesome. And I came back home to Indianapolis and joined my childhood practice. Hometown, childhood orthodontist. It was very, Hallmark movie-esque. And it was great. And in 2022, my partner retired. And in 2023, it was all me, and I needed some help. And at that same time, I was able to hire both HIP and Scheduling Institute. Luke, I had a similar story where Flint, I don't know if you guys do this anymore, but we got something in the mail. And I'm looking, what is this thing in the mail? And it's a little flash drive. And I'm like, what is this? This is from Scheduling Institute. And I put it in my computer, and it's a recording of a new patient phone call that they still have saved. You're not going to play it right now, Flint, because I would immediately log off.
I do not have it.
And it was one of our team members who's still with our team, who we love, who was an awesome team member, who I did not set up for success. And the phone call was the most cringiest thing I'd ever heard. I couldn't even hardly finish it. It was so bad, not because of any bad intentions, because of bad training. And I was like, okay, you got me. Let's give him a call. And so that's how that happened.
Dr. Goldberg, how about yourself? Where are you located? How long you been doing it?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Jeff Goldberg. I'm in Greensboro and High Point, North Carolina. Originally from Miami, Florida. I graduated Tufts back in 2009. I practiced there for a large dental group, multi-specialty practice for about 7 years before I moved here. And we purchased a practice back in 2016. This is a large legacy practice. The senior doctor had started in 1974, so it had been around forever. We were known as a practice in the area, but very little marketing. I had never owned a practice myself, and even though I had experience, I definitely wasn't ready to take on that mantle as much as I thought I was. And I was very fortunate that our senior doctor stayed on. He was going to stay with us for 6 months, and he ended up becoming just a great friend. And we were very fortunate that we decided to continue to work together for about 6-7 years. And we worked every day, and slowly but surely we grew the practice. I learned a lot from him. And it got to the point where, we started to see the practice plateau. And I had to start looking outside of what we were doing and what I was capable of to look for extra help. And so after a few years of practice, I started looking at our biggest practices, competitors in the area, other practices, largest ones in the state. And they were all working with Scheduling Institute. I said, I'm missing something. So I called up and started there, and we learned just tremendous systems and grew the practice, 20%, I think, almost every year for quite a number of years until we saw a plateau happen. And I realized it was because of our marketing company. We weren't getting enough phone calls coming in. We knew how to handle those calls and our patients, but couldn't get enough people who didn't know about us. And I had met Luke a few times. We had spoken, I think, years before we became to work together. And then the past 2 years, we joined Luke, and we kind of had the dream team between HIP Creative and Scheduling Institute in the past couple of years, and we've just seen tremendous growth since then. First few trainings with Scheduling Institute is where it all kind of breaks foundation. You have a practice with girls that have been doing this for me. I had some that were here 20, 30 years. I know how to answer the phone. Don't tell me how to do my job. I've been doing it this way for so long. There's no reason for a consultant to come in and tell me how to do any better. I've been doing it longer than he's been alive, whatever.
Yep.
And you need systems and processes. And I knew that because we were spending 15 minutes on a call trying to get someone's insurance, talking about their dog, whatever. And the phone's ringing, and then, maybe a missed new patient because they were busy trying to give that one patient service. And so when we brought in SI and had the first training, the whole office blew up. Why are we doing this? It was tremendous resistance. And it was kind of like, listen, this is not really an option. You can fight it all you want, but this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. There's no question. So they really started to buy in after maybe the first 2-3 months when they started to see the new patient numbers start to grow. I think the first 6 months of starting in the platinum level with new patient experience, new patient mastery, the initial 2 Scheduling Institute kind of trainings, we saw 20% plus growth in that first, 6 months of time compared to the 6 months prior. So we started to buy into it. And then after, we started doing more coaching and increasing our trainings and really got everyone on board with, listen, the better we do, the better we can provide for you. Incentives started coming into play and they can make more money. They all started to love Skin too. So it was a good 6 month, I think, experience for them to get into it. But what happens, and the reason why it became so important with the training with SI and then bringing on a good kind of new patient generator, was you have the phones covered, they're being measured, they're being quantified on their star rating. So we know that the phones are being handled properly. We got training on what happens after a new patient walks in our door. So how we develop that experience, how we get them to yes. And we even did the trainings beyond that, obviously, with TC conversions and helping improve our conversion numbers. At some point, without a strong marketing company, you cap, right? If you're not getting enough phone calls, doesn't matter how well the phone is answered, you're not going to continue to grow. And we had been through a number of different marketing companies. And so bringing on HIP was kind of the next step in that journey, in that sigmoid investment curve, because we needed to make sure not only we knew our phones were ringing, we knew we were doing well with it, but you're not going to get past a certain point until you have a strong enough marketing company directing that and funneling those calls, strong, good leads to you. So it doesn't, it got to a no-brainer combination and synergistic relationship. You needed to make sure that phone was ringing, let alone how well they were answering it. And that's kind of where the duo of you guys come in.
How important was you holding firm to no, we're going to try it out the way that we just got trained, and then we're going to see what result that actually brings in, right? Because I think sometimes people jump too early and kind of fold to that, right? So how important was that?
You got to commit. The second you say we're going to try, you lost, right? These girls, they know they got you. So the answer is, this is going to be our way, and it's going to be our way until we say it's not going to be our way. So I think we told them, listen, it wasn't a try, it's commit. Give me 1,000% on this. We will look back in the next few months, and if it's not effective, then we'll talk about it. But you got to commit. There's not a question. This is going to be the way. You're going to be measured. Your call is going to be recorded, and you should want that. You should want to prove that you know how to do it. You should want to know that the next person we hire can do it the same way. And it shouldn't matter whether, person A, B, or C answer the phone. Well, person A, you've been here 20 years, but B and C may have been here for 6 months. How do we know that they're doing it your way? And you're not going to, there's no set system for training for the way you've been doing it for 20 years, So giving that system, giving that process, committing to it 100%, there's not a question. This is how we're going to do it, was everything. Because we tried it. Well, let's just try it. And then the immediate I got that was, well, then we don't need to do it.
Yeah.
Try was a bad word. It's this is how we're going to do it.
I have to imagine the confidence of those team members and of you, right, changed pretty dramatically of how willing you are to go out and spend and find that marketing partner.
The expense was dramatic. I mean, there's a huge range. I mean, you can go to for us, the AAO or whatever, and there's, plethora of different marketing companies, but it's very easy to start to see who stands out when you ask the questions, right? How are you going to do things differently? How are you going to generate my leads? And if it's, well, I put Google ads and Facebook ads. Anyone can put Google and Facebook. I can put Google and Facebook ads. I don't need you for that. What are you going to do? Tell me your history. Show me the people that you've created success with. Give me some references. And you quickly start to differentiate those that actually do the work and who are cutter kind of just, you pay me a set fee and I just copy and paste it on ChatGPT, right?
Mhm.
And there's plenty of those that do. And and there's a lot of doctors that don't know any better and they just pay the fee and it's, copy paste. There was a company I went to, forgot the name of it, but they would search our text, our copy, and there would be like 40 offices with the same exact copy, both on
Mhm.
the website or the ads. And it's like, you're not differentiating yourself. There's a reason why you're not ranking, because you're one of 300 that company uses the same exact copy paste verbiage, and you're just not ranking, and you're not
Yeah.
going to, because Google just thinks you're not the expert. You're just you're a bot almost. So how you create that individuality, how you create the story, how you create the market for yourself, you got to ask the right questions. And so when we went through it, I'd been through numbers and I found HIP. I had known Luke for a little while even before we came on full board like this, and they were heads and shoulders above the rest of the group.
When you talked about the team buying into the Scheduling Institute, and Dr. Rochford, I'm curious to hear from you too. Maybe both of you guys can answer this, because there's always the doctor saying, hey, we're going to do this. But in Flint, maybe you can speak to this too. When your team starts working with the people on the front line, so the people on the phones, how do you build rapport, build that trust? So it's not just like, hey, we're being told to do this and I understand that. Now I want to do this, right? Because I think that's the biggest thing, even with us in Practice Beacon. Like that can be seen as a not so great thing, more work, more leads to keep up with. But when you buy into it and you see the upside and you see what that means for you in that scheduling role, then you want to do it. So maybe we can just kind of ping pong that and hear from everybody.
My story was a little different in that I had worked with my now retired partner for 5 years, right out of residency. He was my childhood orthodontist. It was his dad's practice. It was a 60-plus-year-old practice that we'd never done any marketing at all. We had never worked with consultants. We'd never done anything. It was, I called it our multi-million-dollar lemonade stand. We kind of flipped open the open sign and like, come and get your braces, So by the time he was retiring, we had doubled. It was just going to be me. And I was like, well, this is a much bigger production than we originally had. I still wanted to get bigger, but I knew we had to have systems and protocols and structure, and I was ill-equipped to do that. I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at, and those things I'm not good at, let's find the experts to do that. So, Luke, I had known you guys for a long time. We had not done any paid advertising, so when it was finally time to start, you guys were the first and only call we made. Flint, with you guys, I had a couple different doctor friends. One was a general dentist, one was an orthodontist, that just had been over the years just really speaking really highly of you guys. And what I wanted was a system to run my business. I know orthodontics really well. I needed someone who knew business really well. Luke, with your team, that paid marketing is something I don't know anything about, and specifically how we're going to funnel those leads, how we're going to have the protocols in place that we can get the leads, call the leads, follow up the leads, and have an ecosystem. We've talked about it before, Luke, an ecosystem for bringing these patients in the door. And so while I didn't ever plan for you guys to be kind of working together at the same time, it just happened that way. And so for my team, everything was a little new. We had some experience with consultants in the past, and they were never poor. But a huge part of why we had such good buy-in, I think, for both Scheduling Institute and HIP was because you guys hired really good people to lead your teams. And so with Scheduling Institute, the first time we had one of your trainers come in, they loved them. And it's much easier to follow this person and do what they say when they connected so well and they didn't feel like they were talked down to, and they didn't feel like you're doing the wrong thing and whatever. They made sure that my team fell in love with them, and so they were excited to do this thing. Luke, I think they had my scheduling coordinators had a similar experience with your team on the onboarding, where it was kind of overwhelming and it was like, oh gosh, like, are we going to mess this up? We have 5 minutes and these metrics we got to hit before we got to get these patients back, all this stuff. But you guys both have done a really great job of putting your teams together so that our teams have been much more likely to actually do the thing that they're going to do. But we want them to make it seem like it's their idea, they're going to do it, right? And that gets the buy-in and working a lot better.
I do think that's super important, because I think a lot of times when people look at you're going to have this person like come into your office and train the
Mhm.
team, right? You're so used to, a CE course or something like that, right? And
Mhm.
anytime I know we get to talk with somebody who's brand new, the idea of coming out and spending an entire day training on how to handle that initial conversion of like caller to patient who shows up in the office, you really only see it as, okay, so you're going to come in and tell them how to answer the phone.
Why is my clinical team coming to that training about answering a phone they're never going to answer?
Exactly. We spend almost the first half of the day not talking about how to answer the phone. It's really working to get on the same team as them and ultimately show them that there's the opportunity in a growing practice that's investing in them too, right? I mean, the first time we came out to y'all's office, do you think that the team saw that as an investment in them, or do they see it as something else?
An invasion quickly.
Mhm.
Not investment. It's the other one.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Come into my house and you're going to tell me how. It's like they took it as our team. We've been, the practice we took on with Dr. Davis was, been in practice since 1974, right? So we had staff that had been here for a very long time, and they take it very personally. They commit to this place. Their heart's here, and to have someone come into the practice and tell them how to do their job after they've been doing it for so long it's not well received.
How quickly did that change though? Once the team was there, like how did you see the team kind of opening up to what they were being taught?
Everyone here, they always were good soldiers. They said, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. I want to do, you are the doctor, you are the leader. We're not a bunch of captains that are trying to run the ship. Right? You tell us what you want to do and we want to make you happy with it. No one's here to try to sabotage that. They were all really strong with that. We didn't have any saboteurs or.
So they're bought into your vision.
They were all bought into, they wanted to see the practice grow.
Yeah.
And they didn't quite understand what that meant. They didn't understand what it meant for them. They just knew that we were on a mission to try to do more. And we went through core values and how we're helping the community. And when the incentives came in, I think that's when it was, this can directly affect me.
There you go.
So, and they're also very competitive, which I thought was great. So that star rating is very good for their personalities, where it's like, I'm going to get me a 5-star and I'm going to do it faster than anybody else. Right. And they take it personally when they don't get it. So, I think we've been running one of the higher, star ratings for, I don't know, since I can remember. I don't know anyone who hasn't gotten a 5-star rating that's new with us within the first month or two of practicing here. So that's, they want the competition, they want the validation, they want the incentive. So it's very easy for us to get someone to buy in that's new working here. But that initial of getting them to want to do it, not because they have to, but they want to do it. That took a little bit until they understood the value and they could see the results. And that was within the first few months.
Something for our office I think that was really helpful is we have a team of 20. And it can become very easy for people to be looking at somebody else and what are they doing? Are they doing a good enough job? Am I doing, and when things are not black and white with what the expectations are for our team members, it becomes very easy for resentment to build because Susie might be doing more work than Betsy, than Sam, and whoever. And with both HIP and Scheduling Institute, we brought to our business, right? We are orthodontists. We're running these businesses, systems, protocols, standard operating procedures for everything. So there is not a question about what you're supposed to be doing. Here's what you do. Here's how you do it. We're going to consistently have these trainings so that we're constantly being reminded how to do these things. We're going to go over the tour. We're going to go over how we answer the phone. We're going to go over, Luke, with you guys, how quickly we're responding to these leads. And that has really made it easy to keep the resentment away because people know what they're doing. They're either performing well or they're not. We have data to show, here's what the expectation was. We need you to do this. And it's made for such a happier place to work because there's none of that gray area. And so the people that are working really hard don't have to feel like they're carrying the weight because the other people aren't here anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And when you study businesses like Chick-fil-A or Starbucks, or maybe even a different type of business like the Ritz-Carlton, there's clear expectations set. And that's why the performance is so much higher because the performance has to meet that expectation. Because if it doesn't, then we're going to let down the customer, in this case, the patient. then there's a poor patient experience. Dr. Goldberg, you mentioned, there's a billion marketing companies out there. And yeah, I mean, you go to the AO and you could choose somebody maybe at $100 a month, and you could maybe even choose somebody, I don't know, at $10K a month. It really does depend on so many different things, because it can't just be placing a Facebook ad, or it can't just be placing a Google ad. And we do those things. Dr. Rochford, you mentioned the ecosystem. You have to have a full, robust system. And we even can talk shop offline, right? So we have courses for, if you need it, social media, community outreach. We're constantly trying to put content out that shows the holistic growth picture, but obviously we want to offload all that digital stuff too, so you guys don't have to worry about it. And we could ask this question too for, Flint and the Scheduling Institute after we kind of hit marketing. But if you had to summarize it in one sentence, what is the difference with working with HIP versus just, another marketing group?
CRM. There's very few companies. I mean, obviously you guys do original copy, you guys do good websites, you make it user friendly, all the things that need to happen, you check all the boxes. But I don't know of any other real companies that have a good client relation management, a good portal for tracking to really determine ROI. I mean, you would spend money on a Google ad, TV ad, mailer, sign, whatever you want to do. And then how'd you hear about us? You're not always going to get that direct response. Or did they call your Google? Did they call your Facebook? Did they just call your office? How they heard about you? Knowing that we put that ad out to this specific branch, to that Facebook, to that demographic, to this area that produced this many calls, to this many starts, to this many no-shows. I mean, it is clear as day to know what's effective, what's not effective. And again, we have those calls all the time. Okay, this is working. This strategy is actually successful, but of the two we're doing, this one's better. Let's put more into that. And we make changes based on what the data shows us on a true ROI on a month-to-month basis. There's no one else that can push that. They don't have that kind of data tracking or capacity.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's where, Luke, you and Flint are very similar in the fact that let's use the data. Let's have the data. Let's track the data, and let's use that. SI, I mean, you guys will even have studies done to see how are we going to use psychology to our benefit to help people make a decision, but let's not get life in the way, right? And similarly, Luke, we have the data that shows, all right, this marketing campaign maybe worked better than this one, so let's use that data. Let's just cross our fingers and hope people start calling. Let's run our business like a business. Let's get data. Let's interpret it. Let's use it to inform our future decisions.
That's awesome. And maybe we can jump into growth, Flint, and just hear kind of the numbers from you guys over the, for Dr. Goldberg, I think you almost 2 years. Dr. Rochford, it's been over 2 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. What'd you notice with changes in the beginning? And then what's been the overall growth trajectory, whatever you guys feel comfortable sharing?
When I came in 2016 and purchased the practice, we found an immediate 10% drop. And that's pretty common from what I hear. But then 17, 18, 19, we were running 5 or 10% increase every year just from my own efforts. I was researching my own digital. We had a marketing company, but again, similar to Dr. Rochford, we didn't do much marketing. The practice had been here since 1974. They considered aggressive marketing was your name bold in the yellow pages. That was, a whole different world of things, and there was no marketing to be done. So when we came in, I started doing it myself because we had a very expensive debt bill and student loans, all things we had to do. So we're trying to make ends meet, and we're trying to do it ourselves. And I enjoyed marketing, but we couldn't get past that maybe 5 or 10% growth a year. And then I joined in 2019 with Flint, and then we immediately started to see that 15, 20% growth a year, and really pushed off with the new patients and the conversions and just really getting systems and processes. We didn't have an office system. It was Sally's system, and there was Janny's system. It was whoever was a person that met the person or answered the phone. That was their individual way. And there was no tracking we had. There was no data supported. We didn't know who was converting well or not. We were just, we're mom and pop practice kind of thing. Just whoever answered the phone, the patients came in, we were doing well. You were successful in spite of yourself, not because of your efforts. And so when we started getting systems we could track and kind of saw that big conversion, we really put a lot into social and into all the recommendations that we went into with SI, and I, continued to do more and more trainings. We were doing, I think, 4 a year, and I was going to the meetings, meeting other doctors that were just kicking my butt, which really inspired me because I like competition. I like to see other people are doing it and seeing what their growth is. And I'm like, okay, that's inspiring. They're doing it too. And then, over the course of years, we then changed the marketing companies, try to get the phone to ring more, slowly started increasing what our dedication to a marketing budget was. That was another big thing that SI was really good about convincing me, what is your true revenue per new patient, which is all data stuff we never really tracked. And if you think about how much money you spend to acquire a new patient, is it worth it to you to spend a couple dollars more to get more of those and seeing what the return is? If you spend $50 extra per patient, but you're turning 6,000 in profit, isn't that worth it for that $50? You start to see, yeah, okay, maybe I don't have to be, so stingy with that marketing budget, because the reality is that's my best money spent. And we are in ortho, the number one most important thing you can do is new patients. We lose 50% of our patients every year. So we have to create 50% starts of what we have now every year just to maintain what we're doing. If you think about your conversions, your numbers, and we are in ortho so uniquely tuned to new patients that's tragic if you don't really focus on that effort. So that statistics, that marketing budget continued to go up. And as we started spending more and getting more, you start to realize, where am I really tracking my returns? Am I really tracking that benefit? And so when we went over to a couple of different companies, we saw that continue to grow 15, 20%. And then it started to level off. It didn't matter how much money we threw at it. There really wasn't the return. And that's when I started searching out for people that could show me data, because it's like, well, okay, we put more money into Google, but I didn't necessarily see more new patients, but they couldn't tell me why or how many or where they came from. And not every patient's going to tell, I found you on Google, though I heard about you from somebody. Okay, and that becomes a checkbox in the friend referral number. And we really couldn't find the statistics and tracking. We had no systems to really check that ecosystem, that trajectory of a patient after the phone rang. And yes, we got him in, and SI's protocols helped us get the patient through our door, but we didn't really have any way to know what happened to the patient prior, where they came from, was it our website or Google, what made that phone ring, and certainly weren't speed to leading it. If someone called the message on Sunday night, maybe we call them back by Monday or Tuesday, depends. We really didn't have a way of seeing how quick Janet answered that message and how fast she got to it. Depends what was waiting for her on her desk at the front time by the time she got to that message. So it was, by the time we joined you guys 2 years ago, we were already, I think we were already hitting around 900 plus starts a year. And I think this year we'll hit well over 1,200. So in the past 2 years with you, that's what, our 20+% growth, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Crazy. That is awesome. Yeah, we're very similar. We joined both HIP and SI right around the same time in 2023, and we are up 22% production since. So people ask, what are you doing? And it's not one thing.
Yep. It's never one
two
thing.
Very specific things that we're doing are working with you guys. But it's created that system, that ecosystem we keep talking about, so that we make sure that every patient experience is excellent, from that first phone call, from following with those leads, from the new patient experience and everything. With SI, a big part of the marketing with SI is just making sure that your patient experience is so excellent that you create these raving fans, then you are asking them to send you more patients, right? Mm-hmm. And that's excellent. And then with HIP, we're going after people that maybe have never even heard of us before, or maybe have kind of heard of us, but maybe not. And now we're right in front of their face. And we want to be that brand recognition that they're seeing us over and over and over again. And between all those things that they've heard about us in the neighborhood from all their neighbors, and now they're seeing us on wherever on the internet they're at, and together we're finally getting them to come in and get the start and keep it rolling. Because like you said, we got to replace these patients every year. We have so many patients we have to replace just to maintain the level we're at. So to be able to then grow even on top of that, is kind of crazy.
Yeah, especially now, when a lot of practices are kind of flat or very mild growth. I commend you both because you've invested heavily into your business and it's paid off. It shows. Yep. So incredible.
We don't learn about business in dental school at all, right? Mm-hmm. And to then be thrown into this world where we are running a business, we have to be orthodontists, we have to be bosses, we are in charge of the livelihood for all of our staff members. That's very heavy. And for me, I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I'm going to lean on people who know what they're doing in business and are going to help make me run an excellent business so that I can then do all these things I need to do in addition to being an excellent clinician. And just winging it is never going to work. You can do that, but I don't think your company is ever going to run smoothly, efficiently, and be a place where people want to be because it's just chaos. And you guys have both eliminated the chaos from our lives for sure.
And Luke, you tell me if it would echo this, but I would say for both of you guys that are on, number one, you'd probably say this as loud as anybody. You also can't just do it and spend the money and cross your fingers, right? So there is something to the stories that the two of you are sharing that I hope that anyone who listens to this understands. Like there's the investment. Yeah. There's the, I want to do this. Yeah. But you actually have to go and do it. And
got to do it.
And both of you are actually going and doing it and taking the tools and the techniques and the strategies and actually implementing them, which is that magic sauce, I think, that allows you to see the results that you both have seen. And so I just think it's important. And I know from our side that if someone listens, it's like, man, I want to do that, right? Maybe I should go hire HIP or hire a scheduling institute. And it's like, well, yeah, if you're going to
do it,
committed to doing something differently, right? I mean, Luke, you tell me if I have to imagine you probably feel the same way, but I think that's an important call out here.
It is.
For our office, something that allowed that to happen, Flint, because, Jeff and I, we're running these big practices. There's only so many things we can do at one time. And so I had people within our office that I made champions of both HIP and Scheduling Institute and made sure they were the rah-rah cheerleaders and made sure that they were going to especially hype up my team to make sure this wasn't something we were going to try, that they knew as crystal clear, this is something we're doing. I was obviously giving the same message, but when we're doing so many things, it becomes very easy for the doctor to show up to the meeting, pay all the money, be like, all right, that's it. And then it doesn't end up happening because we're so busy. So having someone in our office, a team member for me was my practice director and my lead scheduling coordinator, that they owned HIP and Scheduling Institute. And it was their responsibility to make sure that everyone knew this is just the way that things happen at our office.
Flint, I think that's a good cautionary tale for a lot of people listening or watching. If you're not going to lock in, and Dr. Rochford, that was very strategic for you to do that and create that champion for the process, right? Because you can only do so much, but that was you being very strategic and buying in and looking ahead and saying, okay, well, how could this go wrong? Well, I better do A, B, and C so this doesn't go wrong because I really believe in it and I'm going to pay a lot of money and I want this to work, And I mean, we see shortcuts every day on Facebook ads or wherever it may be, or somebody may share something at a meeting I've seen before and somebody gets on stage and there's this new AI thing that does everything. And typically those things, and I've bought a couple of them and tried them, they don't work.
You're doing homework. You're doing your homework.
Yeah. It's like you do have to be invested. If you want somebody's teeth to move, you have to do the work, and then the patient has to do the work too. If they're in aligners, there's things they have to do, or they have to show up at their appointment. Whatever that is, both parties have to be invested into the relationship.
Yeah, I think Flint and you and Jay always do the same thing. It's a gym membership, right?
There you go.
Buy to get access to the equipment. You buy to get access to the trainers. We're going to get you in shape, but just because you're a member here doesn't mean you're to walk out here jacked. I mean, you got to come in every day. You got to work in. You got to watch your diet. You got to do the stretching. And if you don't, you're not going to be any better today than you are next year. You're just going to be out the money you spent for the membership. And that's true for both of you guys, I feel. So if we are going to invest that money, you got to work out every day. You got to watch the videos. You got to read the books. You got to track the data. You got to have the leadership meetings. You got to do the commitment to training the new board, onboard the new members, and really recruit, retain new staff, new team, new doctors. It's a tremendous education that I get this all the time. You grew up like that. I had a conversation with a friend last weekend we were talking about business on something that, well, you grew up like that. Your parents know business. I'm like, no, they don't. My mom was an aerobics instructor. What are you talking about? So you grew up like that. I'm like, no, it's not. You don't grow up learning this. You don't get this at school, as Brian said. You don't. This is a lot of time, a lot of education, a lot of books, going to the meetings, taking notes, meeting their doctors, and just learning from each other and putting forth, if you tell you do these steps, you got to make sure to do these steps. I was at an SI meeting last time I was there, the last conference, and there was someone sitting there going, I've been here for 6 months and I haven't seen any results.
Mm.
Said, well, why not? So, well, they came in and taught me about the new phone center, new call training for the new phone call. I said, yeah, the first most important one you can do. That's the beginning. She's like, yeah, but it hasn't helped. I said, what have you done? She goes, nothing. I said, what do you mean nothing? She's like, well, the staff didn't like it. I said, if you have to expect to do the same thing but get a different result, like that doesn't make any sense. You have to do something differently. It's the same conversation over and over again. And for anyone listening, same thing, right? If you cannot expect a different result by doing the same thing. You have to be willing to make change. And it's not risk. This is stuff that's been going on for so long, in a tremendous number of offices that both of you guys work with. That you can show the result repeatedly in any town. It doesn't matter. It's business is business. And it translates to any other business, not just dentistry. This is kind of business 101.
Yep.
You can answer the phones, answer well, and market to make the phone ring. I mean, you're going to be successful. Just make sure you follow steps A, B, and C.
Obviously, the two of you have done a lot of different things with us, and there's the Scheduling Institute component, which I think ties in really directly, obviously, with how you guys are working with HIP, but you're both also working with our sister company, the Practice Growth Institute, on really coaching for yourselves. So I guess I would ask, how does that play into this, and how have you seen maybe yourself evolve in a way throughout that process that amplifies the work that's going on at the front line with those team members?
I jumped in initially with PGI. So I started, you can start with just Scheduling Institute and do the trainings we talked about. Just based on whatever reason, I started with the coaching as well. And it's been amazing. It forces you to get outside of your business. They are not just meetings. Jeff, we can appreciate a lot of these meetings we go to are just, you sit there and you watch someone lecture and they're giving you some stuff. They can be saying anything they want. They can say whatever they want up on that stage, right? And you don't have any context. And so with the coaching, this is a workshop, and you're diving into your numbers. You're looking at your stats. You're like Jeff mentioned, how we're calculating in real time how much marketing dollars we're spending per patient, and is that enough? Should we be spending more? So it was the next level. It just was. And we're learning business. It's like we're going to mini business school. The J. Geier MBA is what I'm getting right now. And and it was great. One of the things I discovered in real time that my jaw's on the ground was what percentage of your phone calls you're actually answering. And I'm like, well, all of them, right? I'm answering all the phone calls. Well, look it up. We use a voice over IP. So I logged on and I looked it up. We were only answering 75% of our phone calls, and I wanted to kill someone, right? So in real time, I didn't find that out. I immediately run out of the room. I call my husband, like, what is going on? Luke could also appreciate it. We can't have that happening. So that's gone up to 98% now. So it's awesome. We're looking at these really important pieces of data. We're getting coaching, not just on the business, but marriage and kids and health. And it's making me a better person, a better business person, a better husband and father. And it's been really awesome. Every time we go, somehow, I'm sure they're the same way, Flint, but somehow Jay knows exactly what I didn't even know I needed. And he gives it to you and you're like, okay, that was awesome. Let's get to work.
And for me, it was all about vision on that side. I came in when I first started and I had a concept of what success meant and a number in my head of what it meant. And I wrote it all down in that first workshop of like, okay, here's what I want to see the practice do. And you create a 10-year plan. And then that number grows, and then it grows again. And then you hit that target like in 2 years, like, oh, okay, I am starting. Okay, we're going to keep growing. And you start again, your vision, your outlook, and your it's not almost self-defining prophecy, but it's almost your capacity to feel confidence in what you are capable of grows, because you start seeing ways to achieve it. Because we always ask ourselves, okay, I know what I want, but I don't know how to get it. And that almost is where the conversation ends. A lot of us are just so defined by what we feel our capacity and capabilities are at that moment that we fail to vision what we can do or can be. And so I think joining the coaching side of SI into the Practice Growth Institute with Jay has been tremendous for me to open my eyes on what I can do and grow what I think the practice is capable, my business is capable of, and understand that probably the biggest key was, and maybe too, Brian, is it's not me. I don't have to be the one to do it because I don't know how to do it. We can outsource and find, great people on our team, be it hip with marketing or be it your accounting or whatever it is your team that you need. And then you can go out and find people to help be your who, not how kind of concept and find others that you can lean on who have solved similar problems. So you're not having to go out there and figure out and make a new wheel. There's someone that's already solved that problem and they connect you guys with other people and really working with me to make me feel like I can and making me better about my relationships, my freedoms and my time, money and efforts. And it's been moving off of my time and effort, what we call that time and effort economy, of what I can physically do myself to what we can create a result for us, our team, our people, and our community. That was probably the biggest thing I treasure most every time I go.
You guys are killing it.
Yeah, you guys are. Dr. Rochford, Dr. Goldberg, thanks so much for your time. I know this is going to help other orthodontists in their growth journey as well. So thanks for being here.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thanks for having us.